The views and opinions expressed in the DILLIGAF podcast are those of the host alone and are not intended to express those of any other person, business, or entity. The DILLIGAF podcast is for entertainment only. These are my opinions and should not be interpreted as facts or advice. Think for yourself.
Keeps you up at night, yeah. Make all the demons quiet, yeah. We were built to thrive, yeah. I think that we've all had enough, yeah. I think that we've all had enough. Sick of dealing with the old plan. They know that we're calling it wrong. You got me like, oh, yeah. I think that we've all had enough.
What's going on, everybody? Welcome to the DILLIGAF podcast, talking about anything and everything that interests me. If it makes me think, laugh, cry, scream, rage, or say, what the fuck, you're going to hear about it. My name's Tom. I'm your host. I want to thank everybody for checking out the show on YouTube, Spotify, TikTok, or wherever you get your podcasts. Make sure to follow, like, subscribe, share, rate, comment, all that kind of fun stuff. And make sure you're following on social media. It's at DILLIGAF_pod on all socials. And if you ever want to shoot me an email, it's dilligafpod@gmail.com. And you can find all that and more on my Linktree, which is Linktree/dilligaf_pod, or you can scan the QR code right there in the corner of your screen if you're watching on video. So, yeah, been away for a couple of months. Real life has been kind of hectic. My 9 to 5 job has been crazy busy lately, so just haven't had time to sit down and record, which really sucks. But we're back this week and got a very, very hot button topic that I'm going to be talking about. We're going to be talking about Charlie Kirk, because that seems like that's all anybody's talking about the last few days. And for anybody that doesn't know, which I can't imagine anybody who doesn't know this, Charlie Kirk was killed at one of his speaking events this past week. He was shot in the neck during his speaking engagement, ironically enough, while answering a question relating to gun violence. And this was at Utah Valley University. He was shot from about 200 plus yards away with a Mauser 30-06, basically a hunting rifle. And yeah, I mean, people watch this happen live on the internet, and the video was out there for a while. I don't know if it's been taken down everywhere, but I definitely don't recommend watching the video. It is graphic, it is violent, it is gruesome, and honestly, it's sad. It really is. I mean, I want to start off by saying, no one, I don't care who you are, what you did, what kind of person you are, what kind of political views you have, or any of that shit. No one deserves to be gunned down in cold blood like that. No one, especially not in front of their family like he was. His wife and his 2 young kids were there. Nobody deserves that. I don't care how shitty of a person you are. And also, I want to preface this episode by saying I'm not, one of these bleeding heart people who doesn't believe in like the death penalty and is against guns. No, I believe in the death penalty. I fully believe there are people in this world who don't deserve to live. I fully believe that there are people in this world whose deaths should be celebrated. That's just the way it is. And when I say that, I'm talking about people like Adolf Hitler, Saddam Hussein, Osama bin Laden, people who have just committed horrendous atrocities against the human race in general. Yes, I believe those people's deaths should be celebrated because their death improves this world. And like I said, I believe in the death penalty. I believe the death penalty should be expanded to include crimes besides just capital murder. I think it should include pedophiles and rapists and child traffickers and sex traffickers and drug traffickers. When I say drugs, I mean drugs. I'm talking cocaine, crack, heroin, meth, stuff like that. Hard, real drugs. I mean, anyone who maliciously, keyword maliciously, ends or irreparably damages the life of another person, their life should be forfeit. That's my belief. But the intricacies of that are a topic for another time. That's another debate. I also I'm not anti-gun. I believe people do have the right to own and carry firearms. I think there should be conditions on that. Again, topic for another time. But I'm saying this just to say this is not going to be some anti-gun, pro-life diatribe. It's not. And all that being said, I want to reiterate, no one, no one deserves to be gunned down in cold blood, and no one has the right to gun anyone down in cold blood. You know, somebody's done something to where they should have to forfeit their life. That is for a judge and a jury to decide. That's not for some random fuckhead on the street to just say he's an asshole, I'm going to kill him. No, not how that should work. Not at all. And a lot of people are not going to like what I have to say about this, but it's the truth. That most of the information I'm going to be giving you throughout this episode are facts that can't be denied. And some of it is opinion, which is the whole basis of this show. Like I said, these are my opinions. Now, like I said, Charlie Kirk did not deserve to die the way that he did. But let's be clear, Charlie Kirk was a garbage human being. He was a racist, homophobic, transphobic, xenophobic, Islamophobic, anti-Semitic, sexist, misogynistic, narcissistic, white supremacist, Christian nationalist, bigot, coward, arrogant piece of shit. That is who Charlie Kirk was. And his propaganda was not only divisive and inflammatory, but dangerous because he reached such a big audience and had so many people just falling all over his every word. Okay, the bullshit that he spread was dangerous. And I'm gonna read to you some of his quotes. These are direct quotes from him, either on his podcast or in interviews. You can look them up very easily. Some of these quotes, the list I'm going to be reading off of is from The Guardian. You can find it on their website. But let's start off here, just talking about race. He says, "If I see a black pilot, I'm going to be like, boy, I hope he's qualified," because he was totally against DEI and had no idea what DEI actually was. But yeah, if I see a black pilot, I'm going to be like, oh boy, I hope he's qualified. Another one, if you're a WNBA pot-smoking black lesbian, do you get treated better than a United States Marine? The fuck does that even mean? Another one, happening all the time in urban America. Prowling blacks go around for fun to target white people. That's a fact. It's happening more and more. Where exactly is this happening? This dude's from the Chicago area. It ain't happening here. I'd like to know where this is happening. Let's see another one here. If I'm dealing with somebody in customer service who's a moronic black woman, he had a lot of issues with black women. Really strange. But if I'm dealing with somebody in customer service who's a moronic black woman, I wonder, is she there because of her excellence or is she there because of affirmative action? Who cares? You're dealing with somebody in customer service. They're doing a job. Really, who gives a fuck? Let's see. What else do we have here? If we would have said that Joy Reid and Michelle Obama and Sheila Jackson Lee and Ketanji Brown Jackson were affirmative action picks, we would have been called racist. Now they're coming out and they're saying it for us. You do not have the brain processing power to otherwise be taken really seriously. You had to go steal a white person's slot to go and be taken somewhat seriously. Racist piece of shit. Let's see. Got another one here on debates. We record all of it, so we put it on the internet so people can see these ideas collide. When people stop talking, that's when you get violence. That's when civil war happens, because you start to think the other side is so evil and they lose their humanity. I mean, apparently this is a clip that was circulated on X shortly after he was shot. Might be the most intelligent thing he ever said, talking about debates. But then his whole thing would prove me wrong. Who the fuck are you that anybody has to prove anything to you? Sorry, but you're just a right-wing Republican fucking windbag. That's basically what he was. On gender, feminism, and reproductive rights. Reject feminism. Submit to your husband, Taylor. Talking about Taylor Swift. You're not in charge. This dude hated women. Let's just make that very clear. Hated women. The answer is yes, the baby would be delivered. This was in response to a question asking what happened if his 10-year-old daughter gets sexually assaulted and ends up pregnant. He'd make her carry the child and deliver it. Yeah, anybody who would do that to a 10-year-old child should have their children taken from them. That is a dangerous mentality, a deadly mentality, honestly. No child that young should be made to go through pregnancy and giving birth, as it could kill them. Then he says we need to have a Nuremberg-style trial for every gender-affirming clinic doctor. We need it immediately. More transphobic bullshit. Uh, here's the big one. Talking about gun violence. I think it's worth it to have a cost of, unfortunately, some gun deaths every single year so that we can have the Second Amendment to protect our other God-given rights. That is a prudent deal. It is rational. Kind of prophetic. A little bit. Talking about immigration. America was at its peak when we halted immigration for 40 years and we dropped our foreign-born percentage to its lowest level ever. We should be unafraid to do that. The American Democrat Party hates this country. They want to see it collapse. They love it when America becomes less white. I don't see how anybody can say this man was not a racist piece of shit. The Great Replacement Strategy, which is well underway every single day in our southern border, is a strategy to replace white rural America with something different. What? What is it being replaced with? Rural America hasn't gone anywhere. What the fuck is it being replaced with? Talking about Islam, America has freedom of religion, of course, but we should be frank. Large, dedicated Islamic areas are a threat to America. Why? Why? Why is a largely Islamic neighborhood a threat to America? I mean, we have them here in Chicago. There haven't been any suicide bombings or anything like that going on. So why is having an Islamic community dangerous? Why is it any more dangerous than having a largely Christian community? But I'm sure nobody can actually answer that. We've been warning about the rise of Islam on the show to great amount of backlash. We don't care. That's what we do here. And we said that Islam is not compatible with Western civilization. I would bet dollars to donuts this man doesn't know jack shit about Islam. Not a damn thing. Probably wouldn't take time out of his day to talk to somebody who was Muslim. Islam is the sword the left is using to slit the throat of America. Can add melodramatic to that list of shit that he was. On religion, there is no separation of church and state. It's a fabrication. It's a fiction. It's not in the Constitution. It's made up by secular humans. Okay, so you can't read either because it's right there in the First Amendment. Congress shall make no law regarding the establishment of a religion or prohibiting the free practice thereof. That's separation of church and state, whether you like it or not, whether you agree with it or not. Let's see. That's all that we've got on the Guardian website. Then I've got some other ones. Uh, talking about when talking about gay people, he talks about God's perfect law when it comes to sexual matters, which basically means stoning gay people. Yeah, real nice. He compared being gay to alcoholism or drug addiction, saying that you love them so much to correct their error and get them free from that activity. So another stupid person who thinks being gay is a choice. That's not how that works. I believe marriage is one man and one woman. Good for you. You're entitled to that belief. Doesn't mean the rest of the world has to follow it or agree with it. You can have all the beliefs you want. You have that right. But what you don't have is the right to push those beliefs on other people or try to make other people live by those beliefs. And that's exactly what he did. Yeah, we already talked about the Nuremberg style trial. He described transgenderism and gender fluidity as lies that hurt people and abuse kids and asserted that there are only two genders. That's just factually false. He advised a person asking about gender transitions to work on their brain instead of changing their body, implying that being transgender is some kind of mental illness, which is a common statement among people who just have no idea what they're talking about. They have no idea of the science behind it or really anything. Is also stated, I will not call a man a woman. Again, talking about transgender people. Encouraged men to physically intervene to prevent trans women athletes from competing in sports, saying you need to show up to the sporting event and be like, this is not happening. I want to see somebody try that. I want to see somebody try that so they can find out real fucking quick what the consequences of that kind of shit would be. Because that right there is dangerous rhetoric, encouraging people to become violent simply because what's happening doesn't align with your personal beliefs. That is dangerous rhetoric. What else have we got here? Routinely referred to an LGBTQ agenda and opposed what he called wokeism from the American pulpit. Accused transgender and LGBTQ plus people of grooming adolescents. How? Why? Do you think parents are routinely telling their children, I want you to be trans? What? No, that's just not a thing. Nobody's grooming children to be trans. And then says it should be legal to burn a Pride or Black Lives Matter flag. Well, it is legal. If you own the flag, it's perfectly legal. You can do whatever the hell you want with it. Just like if you own an American flag, you can burn it if you choose to. That's freedom of expression. Where it becomes a problem is if you're going up to someone at a protest or taking a flag off of somebody's house and burning it then because it's not yours. That's where the difference comes in. If you spend the money, go out and buy the flag and want to burn it as a form of protest or whatever, you have that right. It's not against the law to burn a flag that you own. If it is not yours, if you steal it from someone and set it ablaze, yes, that's a crime. Theft and destruction of property. So this statement is just plain fucking stupid. And then Another very important one here says, I can't stand the word empathy, actually. I think empathy is a made up new age term and that it does a lot of damage. First of all, empathy is not a made up term. And there was another one he said he preferred the word sympathy, which they're two different things. Sympathy, you feel sorry for somebody. You feel sorry that something bad happened to them, or whatever the case might be. Empathy is you understand or try to understand or put yourself in that person's shoes to try and understand whatever it is that they're experiencing. They're two different things. And empathy is not a made up term. It's been around for a long time. And then he also, he showed no care whatsoever for the two Minnesota legislators that were killed just a matter of weeks ago, or about children that were killed in school shootings or mass shootings, or about Nancy Pelosi's husband when he got attacked and cracked in the head with a hammer. One of those cases, he was like, "Oh, some patriot should pay his bail or whatever." Charlie Kirk was a fucking asshole. Had no care about anyone. If you did not think, talk, and act like him, you didn't matter. And these are facts. I'm not speaking ill of the dead here. These are facts direct from his own mouth. This is his legacy. This is Charlie Kirk's legacy. Dangerous, hateful propaganda and rhetoric. It is what it is. It can't be disputed. This is his legacy. And when he was killed, of course, the right was quick to blame the left and Democrats and the gay community and trans community and minorities, and claimed that there were trans engravings on the bullet casings, which was false, completely untrue. And there was a lot of speculation, including myself on this one. I thought it was a professional hit. Because when stuff like this happens, it tends to be a mass shooting. People come in guns blazing, just shooting anybody in sight. This appeared to be professional. One shot from 200 yards away from an elevated position, and was able to, outside in broad daylight, where you would have had to account for wind and all this other kind of stuff, and able to hit a moving target, a human target, who's, he's moving back and forth, picking up his mic, moving around, talking, and able to hit a spot about, 3 inches big? This area here? That was a hell of a shot. So I originally thought it was a professional sniper that committed this crime, and it turns out the shooter was a 22-year-old straight cis white Mormon male gun owner from a law enforcement family in Utah, a MAGA family to be specific. Now, there's been a lot of conjecture saying that he had become more political in recent years, and somebody from his high school said he had started, had become more left-leaning, but there was also a lot of talk about he was, his name is Tyler Robinson, by the way, that he had become a follower of Nick Fuentes, who is an extreme far-right lunatic. And he basically thought Charlie Kirk was not far right enough. So, damn, if Charlie Kirk is not far right enough for you, shit. But yeah, and the shooter, he was turned in by his family. His father was a career law enforcement officer. I guess convinced the son to turn himself in. But the actual engravings on the shell casings, there was a few different ones. There was one that said Bella Ciao, which I didn't put this on my notes, but I know it's like an Italian folk song that was used I think it was during World War II. And don't quote me on this because, like I said, I didn't put it in my notes. I just put the quote, but I didn't put its actual its origin. But it's like an Italian folk song. It was used by the uh, anti Mussolini regime in Italy during World War II, if I'm not mistaken. I could be wrong on that, so don't quote me on that part. Another one said, "Hey fascists, catch." Another one said, "If you can read this, you're gay." LMAO. Another one said, "Notices bulges." OWO, what's this? Uh, and apparently these are like alt-right phrases that are used in alt-right groups on like Reddit and Discord and 4chan and websites like that. But let's be real, unless this kid makes a statement or testifies at his own trial, both of which are highly unlikely to happen. I don't think either of those things is going to happen. We're not really going to know what his true motivation was. It's all conjecture. It's all speculation to this point. No, nobody knows. Nobody knows except for Tyler Robinson. He's the only one that knows what was in his head, why he did this. And like I said, unless he makes some kind of statement or testifies at his own trial, which is not likely to happen, we're not going to know. I mean, unless he confesses the whole thing to law enforcement or whatever, and we get some kind of report from them. But then, how much can you actually rely on that being truthful? So yeah, it wasn't some extreme leftist. It wasn't anybody from the trans community or the gay community or the black community or the Muslim community or any other community. It was just a 22-year-old average white guy from Utah. And I want to be clear. Charlie Kirk was an asshole. I didn't agree with anything that fell out of his mouth. Nothing. I'll say it again. His propaganda that he spread was divisive and inflammatory and dangerous. But I'm not going to celebrate someone's death like that. And I said earlier, there are people whose deaths should be celebrated. Charlie Kirk wasn't one of them. You know, I want to reiterate that part. When I say there are people whose deaths should be celebrated, yeah, Adolf Hitler, Saddam Hussein, Osama bin Laden, people like that. Those are deaths that I'll celebrate every day and not feel a bit bad about it. Charlie Kirk wasn't one of those people. I mean, when you break it down, he had some shit opinions. He was like I went through the list: racist, homophobic, transphobic, xenophobic, all that stuff. Had some horrible opinions and positions on society. But at the end of the day, all he did was talk. He was a fucking windbag that just he liked to antagonize people. He got off on it, made a career out of it. So I'm not going to celebrate his death, but I'm also not going to mourn someone like that. I have a hard time having sympathy or empathy for someone who makes their living by antagonizing people and inciting hate. I have a hard time feeling bad for someone like that when something bad happens to him. He became a victim of his own rhetoric. He died on the hill that he himself built. And like it or not, his death was in line with his own stated values. He said some gun deaths every year were acceptable. And he became one of them. Did he deserve it? No. I mean, I feel sorry for his wife and his kids and his family. You know, they lost a husband, a father, a son, a brother, all that stuff. I feel bad for his family. I do, genuinely. I feel bad for his children most of all. I mean, I think one of his kids is 1 year old, probably won't have any memory of it, but his kids were right there. Right there. They saw it happen. And I think his older kid is like 4. That kid is going to remember this. One one of my earliest memories, my own father passed away when I was about 3 years old, just before my fourth birthday. My father passed away from lung cancer. One of my earliest memories was seeing him in the hospital. And that was the last time I saw him. I was 3 years old, just before I turned 4. That was the last time I saw my father in the hospital on all these machines, and just, you know, that, I mean, for a 3 year old, that's horrifying, and that stays with you. That is a clear picture in my head. It's going to be the same for this kid. They saw their father shot and killed right in front of them. I feel horrible for that child, and I sincerely hope that they get whatever kind of support or help that they need throughout their life, because they're going to need it. So, yes, I feel horrible for his family. Was this tragic? Absolutely. Did he deserve to die, especially in that fashion in front of his family? Absolutely not. No one deserves that. I'll say it again. Is it surprising? No. No, it's not surprising. It's become way too common. It's become so common that people are jaded to it. They're calloused. We see it so often that it's like, oh, another shooting, another mass shooting, another whatever. So that that's pretty much it. I mean, like I said, nobody deserves that. It shouldn't have happened. And people are going to use this as an excuse to incite more violence, which is pathetic. I've seen so many people on TikTok, oh, game on now, and oh, we're coming after you, and all kinds of stupid bullshit. And let's be real, if you were actually going to do something, you wouldn't post about it on TikTok. You'd just go out and do it. These are just people flexing their internet muscles. These are not the ones who are going to do something. It's the ones you don't hear from that are the danger. So that's pretty much going to wrap me up for this week. But yeah, like I said, no one deserves to have that happen to them. But Charlie Kirk was not a good person. He pretty much hated anyone who was different than him, who wasn't white, who wasn't Christian, who wasn't male. Unless you're a white Christian man, you were shit in Charlie Kirk's eyes. Let's get that straight. But even racist, homophobic pieces of shit have a right to express themselves. And he did, and he made a living out of it. So, yeah, I really don't have anything to formally wrap this up, except to say yet again, no one deserves to be gunned down in cold blood, and no one has the right to gun anyone down in cold blood. Everybody has the right to their beliefs and their opinions, no matter how fucked up they might be. And they have the right to express those beliefs and opinions, no matter how fucked up they might be. And yeah, like I said, I feel for his wife and his kids, and I hopefully, like I said, they can get the support and the help that they need, because they're going to need it. So that's going to wrap me up for this week. I wanted to touch on this and just kind of give my thoughts on it. And it is possible to think someone is a horrible human being and still be able to say they didn't deserve to die like that. That's not celebrating their death, but it's also not mourning their loss either. Charlie Kirk was a bad person. That's just how it is, but he didn't deserve what happened to him. So that's gonna wrap me up for this week. Hope everybody's having a great weekend so far. And again, thank you to everybody for checking out the show on Spotify, YouTube, TikTok, wherever you get your podcasts from. Make sure to follow, like, subscribe, share, rate, comment, all that kind of fun stuff really does help out the show. Make sure to follow us on social media. It's at DILLIGAF_pod on all socials. And if you ever want to shoot me an email, it's DILLIGAFpod@gmail.com. And you can find all that on my Linktree, which is Linktree/DILLIGAF_pod, or scan the little QR code right there in the corner of your screen. So with that, I'm going to say goodbye for now. Thank you again for checking out the show. And as always, if anyone has any issue with anything that I've said here today, ask yourself one question. Do I look like I give a fuck?
'Cause we want retribution. Oh yeah, we want retribution. Oh yeah, we want retribution.